Hi guys, welcome. Of course, hi audience. My name is Bjorn. Let me quickly introduce me to you. Actually, everything starts with a little story, and the first of these DevOps meetup I joined here at Bjoern, and that's why I always got interested in this kind of event here at Bjoern. So when we talked about with Marcin and Sebastian what to do, I'm really happy to join these meetups here. As I said, my name is Bjorn. I don't really like PowerPoint, hence I put everything on GitHub. I will maybe at the moment, just now, also post the link to the repository we will be using. I'm a system architect at one of the Stuttgart car companies. Before that, I've been a technical lead at the other Stuttgart car company. You might guess it already, and it's written there. Also, I'm teaching at the DHBW in Stuttgart, Introduction to Programming, and I'm also doing case studies. I'm interested in software engineering. Unfortunately, I don't have that much time during the job. I'm doing a lot organizational stuff, DevOps and culture, and I'm not taking these terms easily. I really think that you need to change your company culture to be successful in software development, and people are still joining, so maybe they have to, we're almost going through the content. What I want to present you today is maybe a bit different from other talks. I always like to play around with tools that help me to develop software better, that help others to develop software better. And maybe end of last year, I came around a tool called Multipass from Canonical. I'm quickly showing you that, and maybe I have to increase the screen size. Maybe a quick question to the audience, and yeah, we are almost fully remote here due to the times. And maybe you can use the chat or use your hands and whatever. Any one of you actually does know Multipass already?
Nope.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Two no's out of 15 or 16 people. 16, it's quite a high percentage.
So the other might not understand me, or let's see. I shouldn't be on that screen too often because it might irritate you if we're going into an endless loop of pictures
of people.
So another thing why I like to do this talk today, I'm mainly doing things for myself or in the company or with friends. I really want to try to put some tools or scripts and maybe more out. So I created this repository which we will use for our demo today, which I will use for our demo today, and maybe I will find some other people out of the audience or even more to improve that. Of course, my time was limited, like for everyone else, I guess. I started to hack some things to present today. It should be a bit interactive, even I'm looking at two cameras and not in the audience. So please try to be part of this little session of mine. And maybe if you're interested, if I can interest you to the little project, I started here using an open source project to add some experience, add some tweaks. Maybe you would like to join me improving this repository. So that's why I also put it out there. So what is Multipass? And I hope you can see my screen right. That's all fine. We have some source code in the background, like in a proper nerdy movie already. We will come to that later. Multipass is something, for me, I personally say it continues where Vagrant stopped or Vagrant left. So I'm not sure most of you would have used Vagrant some time ago, or is maybe still using Vagrant. Some might have switched to OCI and Docker. Vagrant was a great tool for me to set up development environments, simulate stuff that is very close to production to avoid snowflakes and the ever-known works on my machine problem. Multipass goes even further because it more smoothly integrates into the modern operation systems. it leaves us with options to really work as in the cloud. So it's a quick picture. I will come to that a bit later. You can use Cloud Init, for example, to initialize all these VMs. And if this is a bit technical, please don't hesitate to ask questions. So I said the session should be interactive. Oh, there's someone at the door, or you're waving at me. I don't know. I didn't know. So if you have any questions, if I'm too technical or maybe it's a bit too blurry what I tell, please stop. And other guys here in the audience, which is increasing now. Hi there. Oh, it's the technician for the light. It's also very interesting. But we see what happens. Maybe it's get a bit brighter here as well. So please ask questions, Sebastian, and who else can help? Lilo Multipass. Exactly. Sebastian knows already what has been the inspiration about that. So what do we have? And quickly, I want to come to demonstrating stuff and not only talking about that. This is my whiteboard alternative, just having a quick picture. We have dev machines, we have CI/CDs, we have operating systems, and usually we have different kind of versions of operating systems and different versions of or update levels of the own operating systems. And Multipass is some kind of a little tool that helps us to spin virtual machines. It is made so it can accept configuration like Cloud Init. It is made to really integrate into the virtualization. We will come to that in a minute, or we have a quick deep dive. It also helps a little bit with a DNS resolution in between the virtual machines, so we can spin apps on top of it. Of course, it needs some kind of virtualizations, and this sometimes is not as easy, and also certain operating systems are much better supported than others. As you might have guessed, I'm using Linux here with Ubuntu and GNOME. It doesn't really matter, so this works fine. At work, I use a Mac. Usually works fine as well. On Windows, it sometimes gets a bit tricky, especially if you don't have Hyper-V support or any other stuff there. So the next picture I want to show is something which I try now at the moment. I said I'm teaching at the DHBV, which is a local state university here in Stuttgart, which is very integrated or a lot of collaboration with companies. So it's a bit more practical oriented, and I'm doing, for example, the introduction to programming a lecture in the first semester. And usually what you spend is you spend the first 2 sessions or even more trying to get the development environment set up. Everyone has a different computer, everyone has a different hardware, everyone has a different operating system or level. I still see people using Windows 7, even they shouldn't be due to security concerns. So it's always a bit of trouble to work on that. And during business, we can work with the cloud. We spin up with Terraform or other tools. We spin up a lot of similar environments. But in that, and even on our work, it's getting brighter in here. Thanks a lot. And even my work machine here is not as clean as it should be. I'm using Ansible to automate stuff. I'm using other tools, but I never get it running as for production or cloud systems. So we can change this a bit by using Multipass, for example, which works much better for me than Vagrant or OCI or Docker, in which we have a computer which has all its quirks and history of configuration. We use Multipass to spin up clean development environments, small full virtual machines have a systemd and other stuff. We can do everything with it. We even can run UI stuff in there. I try to make it in time. Sebastian needs to help me a bit with the time, not that I talk too much.
Go on.
Go on.
I enjoy too much.
Okay. So it really helps me. It's not perfect yet, as I said, and I'm developing some scripts to help. That I did with Vagrant, or you guys did maybe as well, to build some tooling around the tool to make it a bit easier. Does it make sense?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Let's have a look in the audience. So far, I mean, I'm not sure if you can unmute and ask questions and stuff. I'm not sure if it's working, but
I mean, everyone is more than welcome. If you just have a question and you want to step into, just write it into the chat. And yeah, I mean, we are a small, very intimate circle at the moment, so I guess everything goes at the moment.
Yeah, and
so,
I don't want to talk all the time as well. So I want to discuss with you and try out with you. So as you see, the link, it's all in the GitHub repo. Maybe I get a first pull request until the end of the session. I hope I didn't disable that in the security session settings, but we will see. Okay. Let's have a look at the website. Multipass is a tool from Canonical, which are the sponsors of Ubuntu. I'm not sure if the cameras capture it. I'm a bit of a Ubuntu fan. Other people might think differently, but it always worked, and it really worked well for me to switch away from any other commercial operating system. So I have some sort of history with them, and that's why I'm also following their tools. And here you can see, I mean, I don't need to put that on slides. You can look by yourself. It's Ubuntu on a tab. It's up to date, of course. I mean, you should have your normal operation system on up to date as well. But this is the most important point for me. No more pets. You can work with cattle. And even I put in a lot of time. I'm not there yet with my automation and my local DevOps tooling that I want to be, but I really have a hope to manage that with Multipass, to get really rid of any snowflakes or special setups. This is very important, and which is a huge difference from another tools. Let's ask a question. Who's still using Virtualbox? Anyone?
What?
Okay, that's the right answer. I show you that. I agree, of course, to everything. And you see already Oracle. That's most of the people using Vagrant and other tools use Virtualbox as a backend. And see, I cannot even. Okay, here it's coming. You see this nice 80s style web page.
OMG Oracle. Yeah, it's another comment.
But it's still a lot of people using it because it's free in the sense, maybe it's not legal, but it's free. If you use it for work, if you use it for by yourself, it's perfectly fine. But you have an additional layer on your operating system. Going back to my graphics, you even would have some sort of things not being fully integrated into virtualization as we can. And this is where Multipass really did a lot of work. I know Docker also trying that as well with HyperKit drivers and all this stuff. And it all sort of is developed in a big community. But it's really nice is you have Hyper-V, HyperKit, Virtualbox if you really want to. I don't recommend it. That's for all people still running Windows 7 or Windows Home for whatever reasons. You could switch to Linux straight away. KVM, and soon in the next version, I was hoping it's out already today. I'm on the development version, but we still have to wait a bit, and I will update on my toolbox here and my scripts. It will be, LXD will be supported as well, which is really great. I really love LXD. Anyone knowing LXD? LXD. So that might be another session, and yeah. Just a question, am I too technical or too non-technical? We will
Oracle sounds really old school to me, actually. Are you too old school, Björn?
Yeah, but think about it. They're buying TikTok. Yeah. Not that I'm using TikTok. Maybe you media guys might do that. Or no. Let's continue with not too many stereotypes. Anyway, just long story short, you will find binaries for all operating systems. Of course, for Mac, you can use broadcast. For Linux, you have the Snap. If you like Snap or not, it's just there and it works. So what I'm talking so much, let's dig deep. Let's dive in. And sorry if I'm my English is sometimes mixed up. I got up very early for work and still here for you guys and for myself as well presenting. So let's see. I installed Multipass already. You see that you have a small icon. It wasn't there in the beginning. And I'm using a development version. I'm not sure. I cannot zoom in at the moment with that. So let's hope everything still works. And I just spin it up. Multipass is the binary. It's very much like the Docker interface. I think it's built in C++, but it feels like a Go application and other stuff. So you have all the typical commands, and why not launch our first virtual machine together. And before that, I had a little process stopping in the end. So let's see. Also, you might remember this from OCI or Docker, just creating random names and trying to be hilarious with that. Just need to find a different terminal. Starting, let's see. So since I'm on the development version, some things might not work as expected, but there are some new features I wanted to show. Even if we don't have time for that today, we can see that. And now we say Multipass has launched our Jubilant Hyena. That's a random name. Oops, I should. And you see I'm typing live and talking at the same time, which will create other humorous situations. And here, as you see, you can use list. You see we started a virtual machine. I have another virtual machine. It's Ubuntu 20.04, the LTS version, so stuff that we would use in the cloud. And just as a side note, you could also use other images, but since it's sponsored by Canonical, of course, the standard Ubuntu images are first inside the repositories. We can quickly dive in the virtual machine. And hey, we're inside a perfectly fine Linux virtual machine, which is not so exciting if you're running Linux as a base system, but if it would be running Windows or if it would be running Mac OS, I think it's good to have that, especially if we develop for the cloud and using Linux anyway for our workloads. Of course, I can do all the typical stuff, and let's see how well the wireless is here. Fine. So I can use that as a normal virtual machine. Of course, we wait a bit until stuff is happening. I just want to show. And if you're interested, just have a look at Multipass Run. That's the project website. Also, I listed some more links. They have very excellent docs. You can find there. It's really nicely done. I wish some more projects would have such a great documentation. So have a browse there.
We have one question from the crowd. Is it all about Multipass?
This session today? Yeah. No, we will have a second session all about Kubernetes.
Yeah, there will be a Kubernetes second session. in about, I don't know, how long did you want to have your talk?
Maybe until 7,
yeah,
another 30 minutes. And we're leaving the multipass side to do exciting stuff with it, or something what I call exciting, which maybe 90% of humanity would call boring and nerdy. But for me, it's really exciting. So also comments, if that's, again, if it's the talk too technical for you or some things are, please leave feedback for me as well. That's really helpful. Also, if you're using Mac, you will find some troubleshooting guide, because the evil corporate virtual private networks and the proxies might cause some problems. And this is the one thing I wanted to show you. It will be in the next release. It's not there yet. At the moment, we don't have a bridge mode in Multipass. So we are running inside of the host system with one IP address. As I've shown here, this is still loading. You see, you have one IP address here. Soon in the next release, there will be a bridge mode. So you can have a second IP not managed by Multipass. You can access that IP from outside. Maybe not everyone is really does need that, but for all the guys doing ops and cloud stuff will appreciate that, because we have a bit more freedom in how we do networking. That's still a limitation of the stuff I mentioned, which is limiting the use to really move to some production environments. Okay, it's still updating. I was hoping for a bit faster network, but that's what we get. And we're also streaming at the same time, and it's still maybe faster than some of the corporate networks I experienced in my work. Okay, so please have a look at the documentation, and also what I find really interesting, they're also on Discord for discussion and stuff. So if you're interested in the latest discussion, release, and problems, of course, it's a tool under heavy development still. There will be problems as well, and you might not see that it's not a problem for you, but it's a problem for everyone. Of course, we can upgrade that, but I'm not sure if I want to do that, and maybe I have to start the next step before or while I'm doing something else, because I will need some time for that. Okay, now back to the picture I have here. I said a clean development environment, but if I'm not using VI all the time or Emacs and stuff, I need to use it, and I'm happy to use it if I have to, but I still want to have a proper IDE. So what can we do if we still have a Visual Studio Code or any other development environment? What can we do? And especially Visual Studio Code has a really nice feature, which also is part of the repository. I'm coming to that. And you don't have to, back to the question, is it all about Multipass? You don't have to only use that with Multipass. It's just for me. Excuse me while I have a sip. You can use it with OCI, Docker, a cloud environment as well, but for me, Multipass is just the easiest way to run stuff locally in a very nice way. So what is Visual Studio Code remote development? And maybe I quickly stop here and I start a script I want to explain later. And it's also in the repository. Any VM you start is just a plain VM, and maybe you want to do something more. I created some script around that helps me to really work in the virtual machine. Let's start that while I'm talking a bit more about this feature. I think that's a really cool feature that the Microsoft and Visual Studio team did. Actually, maybe also a question to the audience again. How many people do use Visual Studio Code? how do you like it? I really get to like it in recent years.
I use it on a daily basis, and I actually really like it. It's free, and it actually works for all languages that we need for our projects.
I agree. Thanks. Okay. Okay, some of the comments are harsh, but it's true. Everyone has their favorite tools to play around, and mine is Terminal and Linux. Okay. Okay, I have some changes in my repo. That's fine. So what I did in the background, I created a virtual machine with some special stuff, and I want to quickly go through that. And bear with me. Again, it might be not the most interesting stuff. It's bash scripting and cloud init. So you see the script. It's also in the GitHub repository. There's some scaffolding stuff around that. And I just set some parameters here. You might see just the name. I call it dev. Since it's small, it's easy to type. And you might have seen before, I like to type wrongly if I'm hurrying a bit. I'm also doing some stuff here. You might have seen multipass usually connects throughout SSH, of course. That's the industry standard. It uses our own key pair. Here, what I want to do is to use my own key pair just to make tooling a bit easier. I'm doing some logging here in the script. That doesn't really matter. We can go through the script in detail later. Please leave me some comments or issues on the repo if you have trouble with that. Since we are rotating virtual machines, we will have different fingerprints and stuff. So we have to clean that up. In production, that might not be recommended, since this might indicate some breach of your security. And then I'm doing the same what I did before, and I should do the word wrap if I can find it, and I should have done it before. I thought I had it on by default. So I'm doing inline here doc YAML cloud init stuff. Okay, that's maybe hard to take. In the end, I'm adding some YAML stuff here. You can have it externally in a file just for the sake of having a simple script. I'm using an inline YAML file with a here doc. I put in my own SSH key, so it's easier to connect. I try to do some stuff with the name service, which is based on my environment. It's up there. I still have to customize it to take stuff dynamically. As I said, I'm starting to use it. Some things are still hard-coded that should be dynamic based on the environment. And again, if you like to hack with me, please join in the repo and do stuff. Unfortunately, working on the name service is not yet supported. So the basic networking is still taking care of multipass. Only once the bridge mode is there, we can take over the networking and do some netplan stuff. Of course, I want to have my packages upgraded. And here I'm already setting up my development environment, as I said there. I'm putting in some standard packages, which will be running automatically on startup. I'm doing some more stuff. I even install Docker and LXD. I mentioned it, so you can do as a nested virtualization. You even can do other virtualization stuff in there. It was not working all the time. I still have to revisit that as well. But LXD for sure will work. I haven't tried out KVM. That's some stuff you can do as well. I'm doing some more hacks with networking, and now you see my local network layout, but it doesn't matter. So something we still have to tweak there. And then I'm mounting and some other stuff. So what I'm doing, I mount my local bin directory. I mount my local config directory, which I have all stuff. Also on my Mac, I'm having the same layout. I'm mounting my repositories where I clone my Git stuff in there, and also some Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio Code Server stuff I'm mounting from my host to the virtual machine. So every time I do that, I don't have to revisit that again. So caches in some sort of way. Yes.
As Adam is getting ready for his talk, he already is watching closely, and he had a question. Did you try to run multipass in multipass?
We can try that out. So at the inception, the inception part maybe we do at the beginning, and maybe after your session, in case we cause a rift in the time space continuum.
If you open a black hole, I will be very annoyed because
yes.
I have some tasty stuff at home
that
I still want to eat.
So let's try. Again, it depends. I'm doing set up some dot files, and I wish it would be a bit more refined, kind of a script, but that's the state of it's in. And again, I will be working on this, and hopefully I find some collaborators to share the workload. So I already helped, and again, I can, other than in the previous environment, I can, if I do it right, I can just SSH now in my, okay, we have a problem. Permission denied public key. Okay, that's the demo gods are not merciful with me. Let's see if I can still do that. I wanted to explain about the Visual Studio Code remote development. Actually, what we can do, we can have Visual Studio Code outside of our virtual machine and run all the stuff, including our runtimes, Java stuff, Python stuff, all the runtime, even maybe Docker in Docker inside the virtual machine, so we can keep our local environment perfectly clean, or leave it as messy as it is, and we can just go into, this might be the snowflake, and this on the right side, I might call it an ice cube, since we put it in a form, it has the same shape, and we can let it melt and refreeze it again. So let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, no problem, then I have still a mistake in my script, or something was not running in the last run. I have to check. If not, I might have a problem with my... just try again. You don't see much, so the logging, okay. I still have a problem. Let's see if it works. If not, you have to believe me that it works. I will fix it and update the script, of course. So what I can do, and I have to zoom out a bit. This is now my virtual machine, my Visual Studio Code, and I would work on it. Even if you see on the terminal, I would have my stuff locally, but maybe I don't want it. Do I want to have Python there? Do I want to have all Java versions I need? Do we want to have Go, Kotlin, whatever? Like we have with multi-stage Docker builds, actually, I don't want to have all this stuff on my normal UI-based virtual machine. What I can do now, and the link is there in my documents as well, have a look at the Visual Studio Code. We don't have to go through that together. I just want to give some hints that is really valuable. It's really nice to do. We can go to the Remote Explorer, and this icon or this text is a bit small. So actually, I can Visual Studio Code, there's different modes. I can use Docker, I can use virtual machines, I could use a VM in the cloud. It actually shows me the SSH targets, and these are out of my SSH config. And there I could click my development environment. And try to connect, and I hope okay, I have screwed up something with the SSH keys, but in theory, I would be connecting now to the virtual machine. So I could, as I showed in the picture, and the I'm very sorry that the demo now is a bit cut short. I'm having my Visual Studio here on that side, and I can do all the other stuff, including putting Docker in Docker on this side. So let's try that out later. And another step, which maybe, let's see if we could still do that, or if time is not, if you don't have enough time, you even could set up, and I didn't script that yet, I didn't have enough time before this session, we even can add Coder. I'm not sure who had heard about Coder. It's about something like code spaces in Visual, like GitHub, sorry. And you can even put up your own code server inside a multipass virtual machine. You can do it in other development environments as well. But I really like to have a full virtual machine where I can do all the stuff which I could do locally on Mac. I have a proper Linux virtual machine. So actually you can do that as well. And that's one of the next things I want to do as well and add to the script. So I don't even need a Visual Studio code outside of my virtual machine. I can ship just my virtual machine, and I can use the same scripts, the same cloud in it for a development environment purely in the cloud, as GitHub is doing at the moment with code spaces. But maybe, okay, and that's maybe part of the problem here. Multipass list. We go back in this VM. Restart is required since the kernel is not up to date. We can do that later. So the question was if we can install Multipass in Multipass. So since Multipass is a snap on Linux, we're doing that. And while we wait, do we have another question?
Yeah, Adam just said, so whole development environment can be created automatically for new team member using just a single script, and he might have even IDE in it. Awesome.
Yes, that's what I wanted to tell. But of course, thank you very much for summarizing for me. That's the much better summary of that. Yeah, and that shows that I'm focusing on the code today. I should have put some more focus on the slides, but yes, that's this, and that's part of the discussion. What I would like to have in the last few minutes. Let's wait for that to download. 4%, it's tickling down, or the bytes are slowly coming in. If that something would be interesting for me, because what I would hate is someone giving me a development environment as they install SAP or work Windows and all this stuff. But if you would have a community-driven development environment that is automatically created, you share your cloud in it, scripts, you share all the stuff. You can even have one for Python optimized, you have one for Java, Kotlin optimized, and one for Go. And basically, you could run that on AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure. You even could work from a notepad or a mobile phone as nicely as you can do locally. Still, you need internet connection, which is quite fast, as we see here. But that's great. Yeah. So that's the story what I wanted to tell. Suddenly, we have the availability to create replicable environments. And maybe Adam, was it who asked?
Yeah, Till Huber is now asking, or Oracle Cloud.
Oracle Cloud, yes, that might work as well. But then you have to use VirtualBox, I guess. There's no other way out. So maybe the last thing I want to show is doing Multipass in Multipass. And to be honest, I'm sure I tried it, but I just can't remember how well it worked, or if there was a thing. In the default setting on Linux, we're running on KVM. Like the kernel virtualization, so everything would look really nice. On Windows, I'm not sure if it would work, but maybe you can think if you're using Windows, maybe you're using already WSL, like as the Linux environment, which is also Ubuntu. you could think about multipass as a way to have more options than you might have in WSL. And if you're using Mac, I'm not sure who is developing on a Mac. Sometimes you have stuff that is not similar like Linux. You have you need Homebrew to install 20 versions of other packages. So curl is not the same curl maybe. There are also GNU packages that are not the same. And you can install that all, you can build it, but why just don't run? And that's the way I wanted to have it, and I'm doing at my work notebook. I just install the minimal stuff I need with Homebrew, and then I'm doing the rest in the virtual machine, which keeps the Mac a bit more tidy than having hundreds of Homebrew packages. So we're almost there. Any other questions? We can fill the last 15, 13%. Well, also, maybe, again, try it out and give me feedback. So I'm excited about that. Otherwise, I wouldn't talk about it. If you think it doesn't fit your needs, I'm also interested in the community and what they think. Again, I'm not affiliated by Canonical. Maybe with a Canonical, maybe I should also talk to them immediately, maybe to have a talk together about even more advanced topics. Okay. So we have multipass installed, which we can see. So it, again, for Linux, it's a snap. Snap is a whole different concept. I want to dive into it, and there's a lot of, as usual with Linux, there's a lot of opinion. It's like with UIs and packaging, so different versions. So let's do multipass launch. And since we're in the VM, I forgot to mount the image repository. We are now downloading the image. I'm not sure if we have enough time for that, since it's a bit slow. It should be working. Let's see. I'm not sure what sign that is. Maybe the networking is still. Let's try again. Some more debugging. And yeah, some technical aspect which you might like. Multipass is using, and I'm a bit worried about the 0%, but I will test it and let you guys know. One thing I wanted to, I switched my repo already. Yeah, another thing which I wanted to show, which is maybe we don't have enough time today. As I said, it's using a little DNS stuff here to make it easier. It's using DNS mask, and actually what I'm doing on Linux is routing that DNS mask to my own DNS mask outside, which is another sort of inception, and DNS is some of a weak point. Still, if you are non-Linux systems, sometimes with different releases, there are still some problems with that, just to be warned. Again, everything should change with the next development release, where we have some kind of bridging mode IPs. Then we don't have to do all the masking and translating and netting to go out to the internet. And as you see, it jumped to 1%. Looking at the time, I will keep it running, and let's see if can we get it running a bit more quicker. Need to find a way where multipass storage images. So I'm quickly looking where multipass is storing image. If I don't find, okay, that's for
yeah, Björn. But yeah, looking at the time, actually, we should.
Yeah, I'm wrapping up. I will still let it run, and maybe I can give an update after the next talk. So,
yeah, when the bigger discussion is.
And I'm sure if I look harder, it will move faster than that.
Let's stare at the percent.
So yeah, so thank you very much for your attention or patience with me. If you're waiting for Kubernetes, of course, Kubernetes is much more interesting than that stuff. But imagine you could run your Kubernetes cluster on Multipass, and with MicroKS, also from Canonical, they are actually using Multipass to spin up more easily or more reliably their Kubernetes wrapper or system that they're developing with MicroKS. You might know MicroKS already. So thank you very much.